The fluorescent lights flickered erratically in the warehouse, casting dancing shadows across rows of forgotten military equipment. Sergeant Jake Torres slammed his clipboard against a dusty metal shelf, sending echoes through the cavernous space. "That's it," he muttered, staring at the latest delivery manifest. "Box 2487B, Unit Dissolved 1983, marked Do Not Open, Special Orders Required." He spat on the concrete floor. 40 years of taxpayer money wasted on storing garbage. His cursor hovered over the Dispose checkbox on his tablet. One click would end 4 decades of pointless storage fees. He didn't notice the old janitor's hand trembling on his mop handle. Wilson Murphy had swept these floors for 23 years, but his hands had never shaken like this. Not until he saw that particular wooden crate being wheeled off the truck. The faded stencil on its side, Unit 7 Delta Black, sent ice through his veins. His clouded eyes, weakened by cataracts and age, could barely make out the numbers, but his memory filled in what his vision couldn't. Torres was already barking orders at the forklift operator. "Bay 12 temporary holding. We'll burn it with the rest of the classified junk tomorrow." "Stop," the word came out as a croak. Wilson cleared his throat, tasting copper and dust. "Sergeant Torres, that box stays where it is." Torres turned, his young face twisted with annoyance. Fresh out of logistics school, the 28-year-old had no patience for interference, especially from civilian contractors. "Excuse me?" "Box 2487B contains materials from Operation Black Shadow." Wilson's voice steadied, finding strength in memories he'd buried for 4 decades. "That operation saved 14,000 American lives. The men who died for it deserve better than an incinerator." Torres laughed, a sharp, dismissive sound that bounced off metal shelving. "Black Shadow? You mean that conspiracy theory garbage? From the Cold War forums? Next you'll tell me about alien autopsies." The forklift's engine revved. Wilson stepped in front of it. "Move, old man." Torres's hand drifted toward his sidearm, an unconscious gesture of authority. "Or I'll have you removed from base. I sealed that box myself." Wilson's milky eyes met Torres's glare without flinching. "Captain Wilson Murphy, 7th Intelligence Division, serial number 485229841. "Yeah, and I'm General Patton reincarnated." Torres waved to security. "Get him out of here. Psychiatric evaluation. Possible dementia." 2 MPs approached. Wilson didn't resist as they gripped his arms. He'd waited 40 years. He could wait another day. As they led him away, he caught Torres's eye one last time. "Check the morning reports, Sergeant. Ordot 600 tomorrow." Torres was already turning back to his tablet, erasing Wilson Murphy from his thoughts as easily as he'd delete an inventory file. By 0445, Torres was downing his 3rd cup of coffee in the warehouse office, reviewing disposal schedules. The old man's words needled him, not because he believed them, but because they delayed his efficiency metrics. Every hour that classified material sat in temporary storage was an hour of liability on his record. His phone buzzed. "Unknown number, Virginia, area code." "Sergeant Torres? This is Colonel Mitchell, Pentagon Special Operations Archives. We need to discuss a shipment you received yesterday." Torres straightened involuntarily. "Sir? Box 2487B. I'm told you've scheduled it for destruction." "Yes, sir. Standard protocol for expired classified materials without active custody chains." Silence stretched across the line. When Mitchell spoke again, his voice carried an edge that made Torres's coffee taste bitter. "Sergeant, what do you know about Operation Black Shadow?" "Urban legend, sir. Some conspiracy about a nuclear incident. That never happened." "Sergeant Torres." The colonel's tone could have frozen hellfire. "There's a Black Hawk 20 minutes from your location. You will secure that box and await our arrival. You will speak to no one about this. Clear?" The line died before Torres could respond. The warehouse lights hummed their familiar tune, but everything felt different now. Torres found himself staring at the wooden crate, its weathered surface revealing nothing of its contents. Do not open. Special orders required. He thought of Wilson Murphy's eyes, clouded by age but sharp with certainty. The Black Hawk's rotors announced its arrival before sunrise. 3 figures in suits stepped out, their faces unreadable behind dark glasses despite the pre-dawn gloom. The woman in charge flashed credentials that meant nothing to Torres, but carried weight that bent the base commander's spine. Agent Sarah? Chen, Defense Intelligence Review Board, she said, her voice cutting through the rotor wash. Where's the custodian? The janitor. We had him detained for… Not the janitor. The custodian. Captain Murphy. Torres felt the ground shift beneath. Him. He's in psychiatric holding. Chen's expression could have curdled milk. Bring him. Now. Within minutes, Wilson Murphy stood in the warehouse, still wearing the plastic hospital bracelet from his overnight observation. His weathered face showed no surprise at the suits, the helicopter, or the sudden reverence in Torres's posture. Captain Murphy, Chen said. Authorization phrase? Wilson's voice carried 40 years of patient duty. The shadow falls where light fears to tread. Chen nodded. To her associates. They produced tools, working the crate's locks with practiced precision. The wood groaned as nails pulled free from their decades-old grip. Inside, stacks of documents, photographs, and 3 metal canisters bearing radiation symbols. Chen lifted the topmost file, her hands reverent. December 18, 1982. Soviet defector. Reports imminent reactor failure at classified facility in North Dakota. Official channels dismiss the intelligence. Nuclear Regulatory Commission finds no evidence. DoD archives the warning. She opened the folder. Satellite images, blurred but unmistakable. A facility that shouldn't exist. Radiation readings that couldn't be real. 6 men from Unit 7 Delta Black infiltrated the site against direct orders. They found a privately contracted nuclear waste facility, built on a fault line, containment failing. 14,000 residents of Minot downwind. Torres felt sick. Chen continued reading. The team contained the breach manually, sealed the core. 4 died from radiation exposure. 2 survived long enough to secure evidence. Official records show an earthquake caused minor structural damage to a chemical plant. The heroes of 7 Delta Black were posthumously discharged for disobeying orders. Wilson spoke for the first time since giving the code phrase. Lieutenants Rodriguez and Kim, Sergeants Petrov and Washington, Corporals Murphy and Chen. He looked at Agent Chen. Your uncle, ma'am. Chen's professional mask cracked slightly. My mother never knew how he really died. The family received a letter about a training accident. We were ordered to forget, Wilson said. Classified beyond classification. The facility owners had connections that reached everywhere. But I kept the evidence. The radiation killed. Phil within 3 years. I've been waiting to die ever since, but something kept me going. He gestured weakly at the box. They deserved to be remembered. Torres found his voice. Sir, I'm sorry, I didn't… You followed protocol, Sergeant. Chen interrupted. Captain Murphy followed conscience. She lifted a small lead container from the crate. Inside, 6 service medals, tarnished with time. These were never awarded. The mission never happened. The men never existed. Until now. Her phone buzzed. She answered, listened, then smiled grimly. The director agrees. Full disclosure in 72 hours. The facility's current owner just received notice of federal investigation. 40 years of cover-up ends this week. Wilson swayed slightly. Torres caught his arm, supporting the older man with newfound respect. What about the families? Wilson asked. Rodriguez had kids. They grew up thinking their father abandoned his post. They'll know the truth, Chen promised. All of it. Your patience saved their legacy, Captain. As dawn broke across the base, the warehouse transformed into a crime scene of sorts. Federal agents cataloged every document, every photograph, every scrap of evidence Wilson had preserved. Torres found himself appointed as liaison, his small rebellion against bureaucracy forgotten in the face of real heroism. Wilson sat on a crate, watching the sun rise through the loading dock doors. His cough had quieted, as if releasing his secret had eased the weight on his chest. 40 years, he murmured. Anna never knew. Died thinking I was just a supply officer. Who got lucky in Vietnam? Torres sat beside him. Why didn't you come forward earlier? Tried. 1987, 1991, 2001. Every time doors closed, people disappeared, files vanished. Wilson's eyes tracked a hawk circling overhead. After 9/11, I figured maybe the world had bigger problems, but I kept that box ready, just in case. And you became a janitor to stay close to it? Wilson smiled, the first time Torres had seen expression crack his weathered features. MBA from Wharton, could have retired to Florida, but somebody had to keep watch. Chen approached, holding a secure phone. Captain Murphy? The president would like a word. As Wilson took the phone with trembling hands, Torres stepped back. The warehouse, which hours ago had been a monument to inefficiency, now felt like hallowed ground. He watched the old soldier straighten, decades falling from his shoulders as he heard words he'd waited half a lifetime to hear. Yes, Mr. President. They were the best men I ever served with. Thank you, sir. Their families will appreciate that. No, sir, just doing my duty. Wilson handed back the phone, tears cutting clean tracks through the dust on his cheeks. Well? Torres asked. Full honors. Arlington. All 6 of them. The real story. Wilson's voice broke. Even Phil's kid, little Sarah Chen, grew up to finish what we started. Agent Chen knelt beside Wilson, removing her sunglasses to reveal eyes that matched his, the eyes of someone who'd carried unbearable truth in silence. Uncle Phil wrote letters, she said softly. Mom kept them hidden. He knew he was dying. Radiation poisoning. But he wrote about honor, about duty, about a captain who promised the truth would outlive the lies. She pressed something into Wilson's palm. A photograph. 6 young soldiers, grinning at the camera, unaware that within days, 4 would sacrifice everything for people who'd never know their names. We found this in the box, Chen said. Thought you should have it. Wilson traced the faces, with one gnarled finger. Rodriguez always joked about retiring to coach Little League. Kim wanted to open a restaurant. Petrov just wanted his kids to grow up American. The morning sun climbed higher, burning away the shadows. In the warehouse, forklifts hummed past, drivers oblivious to the drama unfolding in Bay 12. Just another day at a military logistics hub, except for the helicopter on the tarmac and the federal agents treating a wooden crate like the Ark of the Covenant. Torres's phone chimed. A message from Base Command. Sergeant Torres reassigned to Pentagon Archives, effective immediately. Report to Colonel Mitchell, 0800 Monday. He showed Wilson, who chuckled, a raspy sound that transformed into another coughing fit. Careful, son. Once you start keeping secrets, they own you. Not anymore, Chen interjected. Executive Order 1.823, signed 10 minutes ago. Full transparency for Cold War operations involving civilian casualties or heroic actions previously classified. Your vigil ends today, Captain. Wilson stood slowly, joints protesting 40 years of janitorial work. What happens now? Now? Chen smiled. Now we tell the truth. Every newspaper, every network, every history book that got it wrong. Operation Black Shadow enters the public record. The families receive their benefits, backdated with interest. And you, Captain Murphy, she produced an envelope from her jacket. 40 years of back pay for a position you never officially left, plus a commendation from the Director of National Intelligence. Wilson stared at the envelope. I don't want money. Then donate it. Rodriguez's grandkids, Kim's nephew, scholarship funds. Whatever brings meaning to their sacrifice. Chen's voice softened. But you've earned the right to stop hiding. The warehouse crew had gathered, word spreading through the base like wildfire. The janitor they'd ignored for 2 decades was suddenly Captain Murphy, guardian of secrets that had shaped invisible history. Torres felt the weight of his earlier dismissal. "Captain, You did your job," Wilson interrupted. "By the book. Can't fault a man for that." He coughed again, harder this time. "Besides, maybe it was time. Another year, another janitor might have sent that box to the incinerator for real." An ambulance pulled up. "Chen's doing." "Just a checkup," she insisted. "That cough needs attention." As paramedics helped Wilson onto a stretcher, he gripped Torres's arm. "Take care of it," he whispered. "The truth. Make sure it stays told." Torres nodded, understanding the weight of inherited duty. As the ambulance pulled away, he turned to Chen. "What really happened that night, at the facility?" Chen's expression darkened. 6 men against a nuclear meltdown. Manual containment. They knew the radiation would kill them, but they went in. Anyway, bare hands and hazmat suits that might as well have been tissue paper. She gestured to the evidence tables. The facility owners paid off investigators, classified the incident beyond reach. If not for Captain Murphy's evidence, 14,000 people would never have known how close they came, Torres finished. Worse, the facility is still operational. Different name, same location, same shielding problems. Chen's smile turned predatory. Was operational. FBI's rolling up now. Torres felt the magnitude of what one old janitor had preserved. All these years he just waited? "Sometimes waiting is the hardest kind of courage," Chen replied. He outlived the conspirators, the cover-up artists, the classifiers. Patience as a weapon. The morning sun reached its zenith, flooding the warehouse with light. Where shadows had concealed secrets, truth finally stood exposed. Torres thought about efficiency metrics, about checkboxes and disposal schedules. How many other boxes held untold stories? How many heroes died unrecognized in archives? His phone rang. His mother, calling for their weekly catch-up. He let it go to voicemail. There'd be time for normal life later. Right now, he was witnessing history correct itself, one dusty box at a time. Chen supervised the evidence transfer, each document sealed and catalogued with exacting care. 3 days, she announced to the team. 72 hours until full. Disclosure. Every news outlet gets the same packet. No leaks, no previews. Captain Murphy waited 40 years. We can manage 3 days. As the last of the evidence left the warehouse, Torres found himself alone in Bay 12. The empty floor space seemed smaller somehow, as if truth took up more room than lies. He pulled out his phone, scrolling through logistics apps and inventory, databases. How many other forgotten heroes waited in climate-controlled limbo? His new assignment at Pentagon Archives suddenly felt less like a transfer and more like a calling. That evening, as Torres drove home through base housing, he noticed American flags at half-staff. No official announcement yet. That would come, with the full disclosure. But somewhere in the Pentagon, orders had been cut. Honor Guard details notified. Arlington preparing 6 plots that should have been filled 4 decades ago. His phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. A photo of young Wilson Murphy standing beside a hospital bed. In the bed, an older Wilson, oxygen tubes and IV drips, but smiling. The message read, "Lung infection contained. Prognosis good. He says to check Section 7, Row J, Box 1143. Chen Torres pulled over, staring at the cryptic reference. Another box, another secret, another patient guardian waiting for truth's moment. He thought about efficiency, about his perfect disposal rate statistics. Then he deleted his logistics app and downloaded something new, a database of Cold War operations, declassified and otherwise. If he was going to guard secrets, he'd better learn their language. 3 days later, the story broke simultaneously across every major network. Operation Black Shadow, the nuclear near disaster, the corporate cover-up. the heroes who died in silence. Wilson Murphy, interviewed from his hospital bed, became the face of patient truth. His weathered features graced magazine covers above captions like "The Janitor Who Saved History" and 40 Years of Faithful Silence. Rodriguez's grandchildren learned their grandfather died a hero. Kim's restaurant-owning nephew renamed his establishment Black Shadow Grill in honor. Petrov's American-raised children stood proud at Arlington as taps played over fresh-turned earth. And in a climate-controlled warehouse on a military base, Sergeant Jake Torres catalogued another box. Another secret, another piece of hidden history. He'd learned Wilson's lesson. Sometimes the most important battles are fought not with weapons or words, but with stubborn, quiet persistence. The shadow falls where light fears to tread. But eventually, even shadows must yield to dawn. As Torres sealed the inventory report, he thought of Wilson Murphy, finally free of his burden. Somewhere in Arlington, 6 headstones stood testament to duty beyond orders, courage beyond recognition. Their families knew. History knew. The truth, at last, was told. He checked his watch. 0600, morning report time. In box 1143, another secret. Waited. Torres smiled grimly and got to work. The mission continues.